Welcome to another week of Token. I almost called it the Inimitable Black Woman, but we are on Token today.
The other podcast.
I almost said the other podcast. Welcome to another week of Token. I am Donna. This is Steven. And Steven, what is Token? Logline, go.
Token Blacks in Cinema is a podcast covering your favorite token characters in film and TV. Now, what is a token? A token is the one black person they throw in there for diversity's sake, but doesn't necessarily have have a complete character.
Yeah, right. Pretty much something. I thought you were gonna give a more fun one, but that
okay. Well, the place where there's no Karens at the barbecue.
Oh, that was good. Was that off the top of the head?
Yeah, girl. Now pass me a rib. No, I'm kidding.
That was really good. Okay, so this week we did I wouldn't even say childhood. I guess childhood is like my preteen, like one of my favorite movies, The Craft. Do you want to describe The Craft, or I can describe it? I've seen it like.
Well, I'll let you describe it since it's one of your favorites. I'll let you describe
it. So The Craft is the story of a girl who moves to a new town where she encounters 3 other girls, and they all align because they are into witchcraft. As the girls become 4 members of a friendship group, a witchcraft group. I'm really bad at this. Okay, I'm going to push through. And and things go from good to bad. The story of The Craft.
Yeah.
Kind of.
I mean, that works. It works.
Oh, you're really better at this.
It's an outsider story, right? A new girl moves to town, discovers that her little hobby, which was witchcraft, is also the same hobby as this new group of girls of outcasts she hangs out with. And together they come into their power, while at the same time learning how dangerous it can be when you play around with things you don't fully understand, right?
You are really good at that. Dang, that was so good. I'm gonna get better. I'm gonna work on it.
We'll practice long lines all day next time.
So the token in The Craft is Rochelle. Rochelle is played by Rachel True, who I absolutely adore. So it was interesting. I was telling Steve, it's really interesting for me to watch the film to like study her character story. Because I've just seen the film so many times. Like, I love Jesus, but I was really into The Craft. I mean, it was the one thing where you go to like slumber parties and all the girls would do the light as a feather, stiff as a board, stiff as a board, light as a feather, stiff as a board, light as a feather, stiff as a board, light as a feather. You would do that, and no one lifted, thank you Lord, because I don't want to. I can't imagine dealing with that at this age. Like, if I had seen my friend lift up and levitate off the ground, I would be in a way different headspace. Thank God that never worked. But yeah, that was like the movie. I wore my black choker.
Mm-hmm.
Give a little, we are the weirdos,
Man, those 90s alt vibes.
So had you seen this movie before, Steven?
I saw it multiple times. I liked it a lot. I had a lot of friends. I was friends with a bunch of different cliques. And so my friends that were like the alternative, rock, punk, goth, industrial kids, they all, of course, like really worship this movie too. So I'd seen it a lot, and I liked it a lot when it came out. It's just been years since I've seen it. And Rachel True, if you haven't even seen The Craft, a lot of people will probably remember her from Half Baked because she's Dave Chappelle's love interest.
Yeah, I love Half Baked.
And she's great. It's great in Half Baked too.
I'll swear on this banana split that you don't do marijuana.
What?
Oh my!
She did a lot of good stuff back then. Half and Half also on what was that on?
UPN.
UPN.
No, it was
Before
UPN.
It was the WB. UPN. Yeah. So she's been doing stuff for quite a while. She's got a pretty good filmography, and she did great in this movie. Really great.
She is great. I one thing about The Craft, I mean, I've always liked this movie, but one thing about it is I would say I think it did, for it to only have like literally she was the only black person in this film.
Yeah,
like extra wise, everything, like she's the only black person in this film. And I actually think they do well of having her as a character. Like, you don't, to me, I don't think she feels forgotten. Like, she has all the characters have like their backstory, their storyline. She's one of the mains, right? But
Mhm.
the secondary main, the two mains of the four main is, obviously Robin Turner. I think I'm saying her name right. I love her because I love Empire. Have you ever seen
Empire
Empire
Records.
Records?
Oh yeah,
Yes.
yeah, sure, for sure.
I love Empire Records. And fun fact, which I knew this fact, but she's wearing a wig this whole movie because of the
Yeah.
fact she shaved her head for Empire Records.
Which was right before the shooting for this, I guess. And
So-
it's looking back on now, I'm like, what's going on with her hair? Like that line, you can see the clear hairline. And
No, she had a lace front, and it was pretty good lace. It's a pretty good lace. It's something a little off, but it was a pretty good lace.
but at the time, I guess I didn't notice or didn't care. But seeing it now in retrospect, I'm like, oh yeah, you can totally tell there's a wig, there's something going on there, right? But that's why it's a shave going bald for Empire Records, which is funny.
So the second tier of like the girls is where Rachel True's character is, and so is Nev Campbell's character. Nev Campbell, Love You, Scream. All these movies are like during my this is when I fell in love with film. Is like during these movies with these girls, these same actresses and stuff that were in like
all over TV and movies in the 90s. Nev Campbell, I think this said was the most popular one at the time, the most well known because Party of Five. But Robin Tooney had her work done. Fruits of Balk, I'm pretty sure this is a movie that really brought Fruits of Balk to prominence. I don't remember her before.
Always an odd looking girl, isn't she?
And she plays those odd roles all the time, right?
She's very.
And so so I guess that's why she's perfect for the villain in this. That's why those are the two leads, right?
Yeah.
It's the hero, the villain, and then the
other two girls.
Two sides, yeah.
But I think even though she's a token, I think that they did a very, like, you feel her character, like she doesn't feel stereotypical. They acknowledge her blackness in the film. So let's get into it. So what was your initial thoughts about? So I would say this, 1 to 10, what would you give the film overall?
There's definitely those 90s scenes and stuff, but it's par for the course for the 90s. So I almost respect it. But I honestly, a scale of 1 to 10, I'd probably give it an 8. It's fun.
Yeah. I would give it, I love it, so I would give it a 9.
It's very, it's a 90s, it's a genre film. Like, and we could go through the list that we kind of done before and answer those questions, or we can just go right off the bat. But it's a movie that has been remade, but this one on its own is like, it's kind of like you could only have that 90s. The way they did it is just a straight 90s genre film.
Yeah.
Like,
it's a great, the soundtrack brought me back. It's very 90s. It's very 90s. So how do you feel that they handled the character of Rochelle, which was Rachel True's character?
So I thought they actually were very true to Rachel True's character, which was good, because I definitely remember the racism in it, watching it the first time when I was younger, but I didn't remember how that was prominently her big challenge to overcome that. I didn't remember that being like her challenge. So looking back, especially in how we review a lot of these other movies, it made me, I was pleasantly surprised that they chose that as like her issue, because she's, like you said, the only Black person in the whole movie. So she's definitely a token. And I remember reading an interview where she said she at first didn't like that that's what they chose for her character. She didn't want it to just be seen as the Black girl. But in retrospect, as she got older, she was really appreciative that that's what they did, because that's more likely the reality of it, right? Especially with, what's her name? Telling her, I don't like Negroids.
Why are you doing this to me, Laura? Do you think you're funny?
You really want to know why?
Yes, I really want to know why.
Because I don't like Negroids. Sorry.
I thought having them point out her Blackness in that environment is very accurate, because, being, someone Black who's been in PWIs, predominantly white, and been in a predominantly white institution, predominantly white environments, you do have these encounters where like your Blackness is just on front row for people.
And it's the way people treat you in certain instances, but they just don't come out and say it like she did.
Right. Sometimes. And also I think she was token, but not token in the tradition of, you're just a black stand-in, right? Like we're not going to acknowledge you, what you might be experiencing in your blackness. We're not going to acknowledge what you bring to the so if I think about her character in non-conjunction, but in comparison to like in 10 Things I Hate About You, like Gabrielle Union's character, right? They never acknowledge her blackness, and her story was purely only to lift up the main person's story, right? As a side character. And Rachel True actually has her own story that she's going through separate from even the main, like she's a part of it. Like she's going through her own things, and she's a part of the group functioning of it. So I think that they, you know, because one of the things also that we saw is that originally before she was cast, and it was originally a part written for someone white. And here's the thing that they did too, that I think, because there's a film called Fatal Affair with Fatal Affair is a recent movie that came on Netflix with Nia Long. It was a film written originally for white people, but they ended up casting all black cast to it, right? And they bragged about how they had a black woman come through the script to give it, like, you know, make it feel like acknowledgement of these black people within this movie. You watch the film, first of all, the film is just, it's not really good. And it's so sad because it has top-notch actors in it, but the film isn't good. It isn't written well, and there's nothing about it that feels black. And what I would say is for The Craft, what they did was once Rachel True was cast, they actually went back through the script and changed her storyline. You know, at first, and we both read up on it, like before it was supposed to be that she's bulimic. Once she was cast as a black woman playing this role that was originally white, they went through and made an acknowledgement of her being black. And it was just, it was great. Like even little moments, like when the girls are sitting out in the park and and they're like, and Homegirl's character, who's like the villain, you know, she's still their friend, but she's upset because her spell hasn't worked yet. And she like walks off, right? She walks off, and then Rachel's like, yeah, I think she's mad because I think her spell is she doesn't want to be white trash anymore. But I'm like, girl, you're white.
Yeah.
Hilarious. Cause it's like, girl, you always, you trash no matter what, but you know, you can't change that you white.
Exactly. Yeah,
It was a really funny line, and Rachel True, or Rochelle, she just delivers it, and like she's kind of like a quirky. Her character feels like the like in Different World, the girl that's a little odd or a little different, or not your stereotypical black girl. Like she's fully black girl. She fully embraces it. You don't feel like she's not a black woman, but she didn't feel like she was playing black. It just is one of those things where the reality is when you're in these white environments, you being black is something that others notice, you know?
Right. And as a result, you don't really bring it up a lot yourself unless the situation calls for it, right? Because it's something that's at the forefront already regularly, right? And so it's not something you're gonna be constantly like, oh yeah, blackity, blackity, black, 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 blackity, blackity, black, because everybody already knows it. And most likely what you're going to reference, these people might not understand anyway, right? Unless like you're in a group of like all these hip hop super fans or something. And so they're trying to actively engage with you in your culture. But otherwise, like she's playing that character. It's like, look, I'm here, I'm in this space. I'm just going to do what I need to do to make it through and, you know, try to be me. And she did a really good job with it. And the person that kept reminding her that she was black in this white space was her villain, which was Christine Taylor's character, right? Laura Lizzie. Yeah. And, you know, and I like that they had her come out and ask her, like, why do you always treat me this way? And she's like, I don't like Negroids. You're like, oh, well, there you go. It's confirmation. This is exactly why she's doing it. And just being a straight up Bia.
Yeah, it's so good.
Until I think her character arc starts taking its journey.
Yeah. What did you think about in her way of getting back at her? The thing was the hair. I thought that was very interesting. It's like hair, because
I thought it was interesting.
Huh? Yeah, because their hair, first of all, black woman, white girl, our hairs are completely different.
Levels. A lot of levels to that.
It was a very visual. Yeah, what were your thoughts about that?
And honestly, I don't know if it was intentional or not to choose that and do so many layers to it, but there's a lot of layers, a lot of levels to that, because naturally black people, our hair very important to us. The texture style, which is also interesting because Rachel True's hair is that kinky curly hair.
They kept
And
it
I
that
thought about
as
that
a
when she was diving. I was like, what's this girl hair look like when she's getting out of that pool? I was like, how's she prepping it before she's diving? Like, you're thinking about that because, Black folks, you know how we are with pool water and stuff. If we done our hair up, we ain't getting that. Everybody knows that, right? We ain't getting it unless we're ready to just be swimming all day and stuff. So I was like, she's a diver with black hair, huh? So I wanted to see if they would show her when she got out of the water, but they didn't. I don't remember them.
well, her hair was wet. When she was they had her hair wet already. First of all,
Oh, it's quite,
Rachel True's hair though is texture-wise, she's like she's a tight, I would say it would be a tight 3C. Like she doesn't have wide curls, she has tighter curls, but like she's not a 4C girl. Like her hair texture isn't mine,
no,
but
no.
like I think when it comes to Black women and jumping in the water, a lot of times that had to do with the fact that like if our hair is straightened, if you get in the water, it can mess it up. Or because when you're natural, all it's going to do is when I jump in, it's going to shrink.
Yep.
That's it. It's going to shrink. So her character, which was very smart and very surprising, is they didn't make her change her hair texture. Like she's very much like she's wearing her natural hair. She's in and out the water but when she's on the diving board, her hair is already wet. So it's just hanging, but she has she doesn't have the type of hair that's going to like do what mine would do in the water. So it would just hang. Like it looked very accurate to me. They didn't show it coming out, but they showed it wet.
It did. And it's they each one of the girls represents one of the four corners of the earth, right? North, south, east, west, and with it, like the four elements: earth, water, wind, and fire, right? And so her character is the water element, which she's a diver. So that metaphor works great, right? But I thought having her spell be because all she wished for was what was her wish? Was that
oh dang,
people that would see
not to hate those that hate. Well, she said not to hate those that hate me.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, but honestly, here's the thing. There was nothing in her spell though that said that the manifestation of it would be, and all of the girls, their spells manifested in a way that became
monkey's paw.
Huh?
Their spells were monkey paw spells, right? And the monkey paw spell is that whole myth of the monkey's paw where you find that you go to like some magic shop and you get a monkey's paw that's got like 3 fingers on it, and each finger grants you a wish, and the finger curls down, and you have 2 wishes left. The finger curls, you have 1 wish left. But the thing is, with the monkey's paw, every wish you make is granted, but it always comes in a way you didn't expect, and always has like a negative aspect to the wish. So you get a wish, but not how you think it's going to come out, right? And so that's how their wishes were each done in this movie, which I always love because it's always really clever. It makes you think twice. But yeah, like you said, she didn't expect it. She didn't wish for the girl's hair to fall out, but that's what happened. Is the girl's hair, Lizzie's hair, kept falling out repeatedly, which is also just a great metaphor for Black women and their hair, and the struggle to keep it. When you're keeping it natural, it's one thing, but when you're trying to make it like white people's hair, which is how so many Black people growing up doing with relaxer and texturizer, that it frequently leads to Black hair falling out, right? How many times, older Black women, like my mama, constantly is like, oh, my hair's so thin. I wish my hair could be as thick as yours. Oh, my hair's so thin. Oh, my hair's falling out. But it's because years and years of using relaxer, which is basically lye, right? And lye is like a highly acidic, like a natural fat. So years and years of using relaxer basically just erodes the natural texture of your hair and flattens it out. So then it looks nice and basically white, which is what that whole idea came from back in the
not white, straight,
straight,
white people's hair whenever
straight.
No offense to y'all, but y'all straight hair ain't what I want. I just want straight.
Exactly. But the original reason, I mean, they've been using relaxer and lye texturizer since the 20s, right? And that's when Black people were doing the white approved haircuts, right? They were trying to look more, keep the same white hairstyle. You look at those black and white photos and stuff. So that's where that stemmed from. And so, like, if you watch Chris Rock's Good Hair, it has a great explanation on all that stuff. But I thought it was really ironic because, Rachel True's hair was natural. She was natural the whole time. Her hair, her personality, she seemed natural to herself. But her enemy, who's this racist blonde girl, her hair is the one whose hair ends up falling out, which is great because if Rachel True was one of these characters who was using relaxer and trying to be more like everybody else, then that's, those are the details. That's ultimately what would be happening with her own hair. But instead
Also,
of
I just want to say this just as a Black woman, and I know not everyone that listens to this is Black, which is totally dope. I think what Steven said is the thing on it's like trying to the white approval hair. That doesn't mean that everyone who is Black, who straightens their hair, who gets relaxer or does whatever, that is a texture that's opposite of what this is. Because if you watch the show, my hair has changed from Brazilian to straight to this to that. It changes every week, but it's not about white approval. But that doesn't mean that within our own community, there isn't that factor that plays sometimes in our hair. So I'm just saying, we're having a conversation knowing instinctively as Black people, the nuance of hair when it comes to Black people. But if you're not white, I would say don't take what we're saying, yes, but it's not the full picture of Blackness and Black women when it comes to our hair. So just because a Black woman doesn't have natural hair, that doesn't mean that she hates her hair. She's trying to be white adjacent. But the fact of the matter is, yes, European standards have no. And I know you don't know, but I'm just saying it for those who aren't in the nuance of what it means to be Black and what that means with our hair. Because, just the reality is, especially white people who are now getting education on these things, it's a lot, like, because it is a lot, it's worth knowing, but it is a lot because there's a lot of nuance within our culture and within our upbringing that it's like you're trying to catch up with, that I just know because I'm a Black woman. He just knows
exactly because you grow up Black. And so that's actually a better way to put it. Instead of saying white approval, I would say European standards, which is obviously has been forced upon us after being in America since slavery, right? That's that European standard that brought about using lye in Black hair to texturize it and everything else. And then centuries later we do this as part of our own style now, but that's exactly how it started.
So it's actually I don't want to say I'm gonna use a big word, but I don't know, but I think it's just really revolutionary. I don't know if I want to use that word, but for her to be the Black character in this film, to have her own storyline, and for her hair to be how it is, like, because a lot of these times in these movies, if you watch with the token, a lot of times they are having to do things that are more European approved, which is like, or white standard, which is like the straight hair, which is fine for their choice. But a lot of times you don't see you might see that now.
You don't see one of the things I resent the most, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but
no, you're fine. I cut you off all the time.
It just makes me remember, like, and we have the agency to pick whatever hairstyle we want. Go for it. I tried a bunch of crazy hairstyles in high school that got me laughed at by all the Black kids, but I just want to do some different shit, right? But the thing is, like in movies in the 90s, like you were saying, especially, you would not see ethnic hair natural unless it was a Black dude with an afro, right? But if a woman, you usually didn't see it natural at all. And the only time you really see dreadlocks is when they were it was like a revolution movie and they were poor people or homeless people. They all had dreads. All the dirty, downtrodden people always had dreads, but nobody else, right? All the people that were crazy or doing something wild, like Jericho 1 in Strange Days, he had dreads, right? But he was like this crazy revolutionary leader and stuff. But anybody that was normal would not, right? And so that's why it's also really impressive to me that she was able to keep her hair natural and curly.
Just I wonder if the writers even noticed that, how big of a deal it was for the distinction to show up in the hair, having the white girl lose her hair, even like when she's doing, because maybe she did know the spell was going to happen, or she knew something was going to happen, because remember they plucked homegirl's hair, the white girl's hair out.
How? Pull my hair out.
And they braided it in the Black girl's hair, which was it was such a visual to see this blonde, white, split in ass hair being braided, because her hair, the white girl's hair was processed. It looked gorgeous, but that shit was processed, bleached, and all of that. It looked
Well,
beautiful, but it was
yeah, she was
processed.
like, she said one of them said something about, right?
Yeah, she's like, girl, she got a lot of split ends.
That's how you know it's not natural blonde or whatever.
Yeah, and she's
Right.
and the image of her braiding that blonde hair into this black girl's hair. I
Really
was
great.
like, it's real, it shakes you. So the way that it progresses is, at first you see Rochelle's character, like, when it comes distinctly to this storyline for her, she's at first she thinks it's really like fun and funny. Like she has joy in the fact that this girl is losing her hair. I mean, because this girl's a total bitch, and like to see her lose her hair, even watching it, you're like, yes, because she's a bitch. And as soon as that girl starts losing her hair, right? Because what was happening is she was going into this. Here's another thing. I don't even know if the writers knew. And this is when we think about like how being black brings another layer to it that I wonder if they even notice. The fact that she was in this diving class and she was skilled, but because this white girl would taunt her every day, she was never able to show her skill.
Oh, are you sure?
Because she had that pressure. And when that girl starts losing her hair, that's the first time the coach, she lands the dive beautifully. It was the first time the coach ever saw her excel. And it was like, once this pressure from this white girl that was teasing her and holding her back because she was black, once that ended, this black girl was able to excel in what she could do. Like,
and he looked surprised. Like, you see the face of the coach. He's like, what?
He's like, I never knew. And it's such a big commentary on the pressures that you feel in environments being black that are actually at a detriment to us being able to succeed and able to express fully.
I mean, you said exactly what I was going to say. It's a perfect metaphor for the pressure that, and you hear it thrown around a lot today, that people have anxiety and that we have, there's internalized trauma that POC have from years, a lifetime of growing up under like systemic racism, which people love to claim doesn't exist, but it's 100% a freaking real thing. And just from systemic racism, from the pressures of being with their race within a culture that primarily pushes the dominance of the white power structure, like having that internalized trauma, that's a great little, that scene is a great reflection of what that'll do to you and what can happen when the pressure is relieved, when that valve is just opened up and you can breathe and just be be in your space or whatever space you're in without having that pressure pushed down on you just in an instant, right? She's boom.
It's very smart. I don't even know if they knew they were being so smart.
Yeah, I don't either, but they did a good job. The director, Andrew Fleming, he did a good job with it.
So one thing though that I did read after, and because I sent you the quote, which I thought was interesting, and it's a good point. She talks about how Rachel True, talking about the film, talking about her character, says that it's interesting though, they definitely acknowledged her blackness in her storyline, but in her exchange with her friends, never do they acknowledge the fact that she's dealing with blatant racism.
Yeah.
What'd you think about that?
The only other scene, because I was like, they have to see it, right? They've got to, even off camera, they've got to see it, because on camera, I don't remember them showing a scene where she was being treated like that when the girls were around. It's always at the pool or in the locker room. You
never see on camera in front of the other girls her do her racist things towards her, but they're friends, so you can assume she's told them, right? Like, if the white girl call me Negroid, I'm telling all of my friends.
Yeah.
So they knew.
I mean, you need somebody to tell, right? And you need somebody to vent to, and those are clearly her only friends there. And they don't make it look like she's going to her parents very often. What did they say? They had one line about her parents, and they said they had a line about, they had a scene that they cut out. I don't remember what that, I remember reading about the scene. I don't remember what was in it, but I know
one scene they cut out was, it was a scene with her parents, and you see that her parents are like boring, and that's why she's drawn to magic and stuff.
Yeah. So basically, she's probably not venting to them. So she's definitely going to vent to her friends. And each one of those friends is an outcast, right? In their own way. It's an outcast gains power movie. And so her, you know, she's obviously the token black person. Nev Campbell's the one that's all scarred, and so she's Earth, right? And Fruits of Balk's character is the white trash girl who's fire, and she smokes a lot, right? And Robin Tooney's character is the one that's wind, and it always looks like a Beyonce video everywhere she goes. So just hair blowing
That wig was popping. That wig was popping, baby.
all over the place. So, you know, and I guess she's outcast because she's the new girl. But I thought they did a really good job, like they acknowledging her blackness and showing what somebody has to deal with that in a white space like that, and how one way somebody might try to overcome that, you know. And obviously it's moved by witchcraft.
Do you think it was a missed moment not having her friends also acknowledge that she was going through teasing because she was black? Like really acknowledge it.
I think a brief acknowledgement would have helped a lot, like really cement that her friends understand, because there was one scene where it seemed like they felt it, but it didn't really track to them because they're like, I got my own problems, right? Like it just felt like they knew it, but they didn't. It wasn't anything like they were gonna do to try to help her solve or like really empathize with.
Right.
Like Nev Campbell's character was very selfish, right? She was of course was hiding under the covers and under her clothes and everything because she was embarrassed about her scars. But you know, Ferruccia was obviously the ringleader. And Robin was like the new girl, but it's like if they had given her just one scene where somebody would at least acknowledge it, like apologize or be empathetic more, I think it would have really helped cement it. What was a good acknowledgement and character arc for her character, I think it would have just helped cement that she, you know, was black in these spaces and getting repeatedly beaten down for it, but not having any way to get help for it either.
And it could have literally been just one line. I think I will say that I think the girls starting off, they felt like they very much so cared about each other and things that nature. I think in the movie tone wise, it changed once once Homegirl got her power, where she's basically like got the power of God. And once she got her power and the other girls got their kind of witch, they got like power hungry, right? Like the girls never had power to this level until Robin Turner's character comes, who's a natural witch. Once she comes to the group, their power just elevates. And so Robin's character is starting to see that, hey, these things that we're doing, it's causing harm. It's becoming too much. Like these things are not good. And so I will say, to me, that's when I saw the group dynamic kind of shift to everyone very preserving themselves and the power that they have. And I think if I had to place a line though, to have the acknowledgement, to show the empathy for her character, it would be when they were doing the glamour spell, when they were changing their eye color, she changed her hair color. If one of them had said, if Rachel True's character said, oh, I want to change, and when she said she wanted to be blonde, and the girls, you know, funny, be like, no, don't do blonde. But if one of the girls had said, girl, you don't need to be blonde, you look perfect how you are, I don't care what that white girl says or what that girl says at school, that would be like an acknowledge. Like if she said, oh, I want to change my eyes from brown, and one of them been like, you don't need to change your eyes, you look fine, you're perfect, that girl at school, just like saying something like that, like, I don't care what they say at school, you look good how you are. Like that would have been acknowledgement of the fact that she's dealing with something when it comes to her looks from her friends. Just something as simple as that would have dropped for us, like, these girls know, and they're actually uplifting her. I think, you know, because I felt like the group dynamic was very loving and stuff until it changed. So then let's talk about her character in the grand. So finishing out this storyline, when the spells start going wrong, like you even see Rochelle's character regret the girl losing her hair.
She does. She actually shows remorse, which is great for her character arc, because she gets what she wants, realizes she doesn't want it that way, and shows remorse, but none of them can stop it, because the lady at the occult store says that you can't put an end to the spell, you have to let it naturally run its course and all that, right? but she definitely shows that remorse, which really helps to make her a fully fleshed character, like a 3D character that is a real person. You know, because real people are gonna feel some kind of guilt, even folks that treat you like shit. You know, as long as you're not a sociopath on some type of a human level, when you finally see them get their just dues, eventually, you know, if it's something that's really horrible, you're still gonna feel kind of bad, you know, because you're a freaking human being, you know.
Yeah. I thought they did a very good job of like rounding out that story and seeing how she actually felt about it. Cause at first you see her like cheering, like, oh my God, she has to wear like a hat and da da my hair and all that. But then when she sees this girl like in pain, crying, saying, I don't know why my hair won't stop coming out. And you see her, you know, she's hurt. She's hurt because she knows it's what she did. And she looks, and then they have that cool moment where she looks in the mirror and her reflection doesn't even look at her.
Yes, yes, because because she's so internally ashamed that her reflection is like, I'm not with you anymore. We can't
Wow.
be
She
part of
won't
this.
even look at herself. She can't even see
Yeah,
herself.
which is another really great. They did really good visual storytelling in this movie,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's that type of stuff. It's a very visceral storytelling with all the bugs and the snakes and the rats and and like the scaly skin, but that type of stuff too, with the slight little mirrors played a big part in this, and I think it's part of because mirrors are a big part of the occult and stuff too, right? Like she flies, throws fruits of bulk into the mirror at the end. The that mirror scene with her there. I think there's mirrors all over the occult store. Like there's mirrors are a big part of it too.
I
But
mean, it speaks about illusion, right?
yeah, exactly.
Because there's a lot of that, like where is it real or is it fake? What's going on and stuff like that. So then when it comes to like the grander story, right? These girls are getting their wishes. Their wishes are starting to like the ones that are really backfiring are the ones with homegirl seeing that girl lose her hair, and then the main girl has wished for the guy to fall in love with her, and he becomes obsessive to the point of even trying to rape her to just
Yeah,
have
yeah,
her. um and then the main girl, the villain, her stuff is bad. She like basically kills the guy. What's so great about how they do these stories is like you're like rooting for the evil until it like turns in a way that you're like, okay, this is too much, like it's not good.
yeah, yeah,
Too far. I was happy he died from that heart attack, but let's not continue to
yeah,
just kill. So in the grand scheme of the story, right, Rochelle's character becomes one of the mean girls. They turn on Rachel, Robin Turner. I can't even remember her
yeah.
character name right now.
Oh, what is her character's name? Because
Sarah. Is it Sarah?
yeah, Sarah.
So they all start turning on Sarah because Sarah starts pointing out to them like, hey, this is not like, this is
Taking it.
bad, you guys, and all this. And so then Sarah takes it in her own hands to try to bind Nancy. There we go. Now I know people's names because I'm going by the lines in the movie. So they try to bind Nancy because Nancy is the ringleader and she becomes the villain. I mean, she's all into herself. Like you see Sarah's character trying to tell Nancy that like she has nightmares. Like she's telling her like something really deep. And this was such a like moment that reminds me of people. She's like, yo, I tried to kill myself. I have these nightmares and I'm struggling. And Nancy's like, hey, so I really look at this snake in my hand. I'm ready to get some power. Like she just completely like ignores the girl like confessing, and then has the nerve to throw that confession in her face at the end when she's trying to kill her.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
So
you
she was
were
listening because
barely
she cared.
listening, and now all of a sudden you're like, oh, I know how to get her. I'm gonna use that stuff she told me in private. Like that's like narcissistic behavior.
Yeah, very narcissistic, and like I mean, which is great because it goes to show her character was that narcissistic person. She felt bad. She got treated bad too by Skeet Ulrich's character, by the jock, and grew up in a white trash family. And her stepdad was abusive to her father and was like looking at her half naked or whatever when she's in the towel and all
Yeah,
this stuff,
she's bad.
being a big old bad dude, right? So you get that, but she still had that narcissism kind of present throughout the whole thing. When they were all talking, like when she stormed off and Rachel True's character said, Rochelle said, "Oh, like I tell her, girl, you're still white," like she was sitting there just boiling, watching them all happy, like because they got their powers, and she was mad because she got her own, didn't get her own yet. But it's like instead of discussing it with them and talking, just being part of the group, she was already isolating herself, right?
Well, I mean, you could tell from the beginning, her wish was to have all the power. That's what she wanted from the beginning.
Yeah.
So then the girls become mean girls because Sarah's character does this spell, and it doesn't work, where she's trying to bind Nancy so she can like not harm and hurt people or whatever. And that's when the girls then come together in the dream. They go in her dream and they're like pretending like they're choking her and like, oh look, this is visually kind of like it. This looks like it. It looks like it. That's crazy. That's crazy. I look just like the movie where they're like, Sarah.
Yeah, that's basically what they do.
That's basically, and Sarah was like, oh,
yep.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
We can shoot our own version right now.
Yeah, this is so good. So then did you believe, so for the latter half, she becomes part of the villain group. How did you feel about her turn? Did you believe it? Did you think it all played out? What was your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, so my only thing with the turn, and I get they're doing this because they got to make them into mean girls, was that Nancy's character led the when she got the power manon or whatever, she led the charge to being full out mean. But the other girls were still having fun, but they didn't seem to have gone full mean. They were definitely enjoying their power, but still seemed a little kind of remorseful, a little worried still, until that car scene. Like the car scene when Nancy's driving them in her new Mustang drop top because they got $150,000.
175.
175.
Oh.
Which is not going to get you a whole lot, but I guess I was thinking about, I was like 90s cost of living, it definitely would have gotten you more than it would today. But they were living it up like they had hit the lotto. I was like, y'all, that's gonna be gone like next month. but she's driving that Mustang and like driving all crazy, changing lights, doing all this magic, which is, they're fun and games. But that's when, like, Robin's like, you guys, like you said, she's telling them, Robin Tooney's character, Sarah, is telling them like, you guys are starting to get worried. I think we're taking things too far. And she's like, what are you? You're so scared. And the other girl's just kind of laughing and giggling, like teenagers do. But going through the light and everything, they're like, even Nancy's character's like, whoa, that one, we really did almost get hit there. And so you're like, okay, they still have a little bit of like sanity left in them. But when the third act, when they all turn on her, is when I would think, like, I just wanted to see a more natural turn, because it just seemed out of the blue that the other two were already willing to make her kill herself, when it was really just Nancy after the party that was like, that's it. I'm gonna have her,
Right.
I'm gonna have her think her parents are dead. I'm gonna have her, when they're all flying at her and attacking her. I was like, at what point did these girls get fully converted to being like, she's bad, we gotta attack her? Just because she's trying
I will say this. I actually think that they weren't fully there. And the reason I would say that is because that when Nancy is telling them to go check on her, Rochelle's character goes, hey, I think she says something like, I think you're taking this too far.
No. This whole thing is just no.
Get your lazy ass up those stairs or I'll slit your throat!
When she said lazy, I was like, but then I also was like, they probably weren't. I've never gotten the film that her friend was racial towards her, said anything racially towards her. So I didn't get that. But she like, that's when she did show like, hey, it showed that they weren't fully, or maybe they weren't on the same basis that Nancy was on. Like maybe they just thought, really, they let her ring her and said like, we just got to show her a lesson. Like that's what it felt like to me a little bit, because when she's pushed back like that, it showed me that they were about it, but maybe didn't fully understand that what this was about.
Yeah. And I just wanted to see a more visual representation of them fully converted, because even then I agree, like even if that's the case, then show me, just even if briefly, her like hanging out with them and being like, all right, Sarah's going too soft. She's gonna rat us out. She's gonna try to stop us. We need to stop her first. They're like, yeah, okay, yeah, she is. I agree. She went to the shop or whatever. Like, they're watching her through a crystal ball, whatever. Because Nancy clearly knew she was trying to put the binding spell on her.
Right.
She had that whole explosion, which was really confusing because like they explode in the front of the shop, but they're in the back of the shop, and then they go back to the scene and it's not really exploded. So I guess it's just a vision that they both see, but whatever. So I just want to see something where she was like had won them over to go all out, like all in, even though they're still apprehensive about it. But for the most part, they did it well.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that could have been nice, like a moment, I think they probably thought they had that moment when she was in the car and they were all like refuting her when she was like, you guys, it's going bad. We need to stop. And they were like, they're like, basically like, be quiet, girl. Like, we're having fun. Like, you need to shut up. But I think it might have helped just one more beat of showing like the girls really wanting to preserve their power and seeing her as a threat. And that's why going along with Nancy. But I did appreciate that line where they were like, it's too much. Like, you're doing too much. Like her actually visually, like her actually like speaking out and saying something, which also speaks to the fact that her character felt like she had agency within the film. Like she never felt like just a go along.
Like,
like even if she did choose to go along, it felt like a choice and not just like something to help with the other girl's story. Like she never felt forgotten as like a character in it. And it makes me question, I mean, whoever did that rewrite, I thought was very smart. What I do want to touch upon is the things that, it's like this film is like very impactful. Like overall, I think we can both agree that considering this is a film that's mainly done by white people, they actually handled her character very well. And I wonder if it's because they didn't go into it. A part of me wants to go like, one, because they didn't go into it writing this for someone Black. They were writing it as a white girl. So maybe that brought a level of like seeing her fully, than like a stereotype. But then a part of me doesn't want to completely say that, because when they went back through and did the rewrites of her storyline, they did a very good job of like bringing that to fruition and completion in a way that was very great for her character. But I will ask about, and I want to talk about, is like the stuff that we read about how she's been treated after the film, how they treated her during that time, and it's so sad because it's like this film and she's obviously a lead of this film.
Yeah.
But she talks about the mistreatment. So what were your thoughts about all that?
Her post-film treatment was surprising to me, but not too surprising. But still, given that there's clearly 4 leads or 4 girls on the poster, it's just still infuriating. Like it just contributes to more marginalization, right? They said they invited all the actresses to the MTV Movie Awards that year except her, right? They in the following years, like they ignored her on most of the promotional materials, despite being one of the leads. They put Fruits of Balk and Robin Tooney and Nev Campbell, but they wouldn't put her name on there. At Comic Cons, they invited all the actresses there for like what was essentially a reunion, but they didn't call it a reunion except her, right?
As recently as 2019.
Yes, which is insane. Like it's literally insane, especially 2019, where you would think people would be more woke by then, right? But just more paying attention. Like, and even the streaming services, right? Amazon, Showtime, HBO, they would put all the characters' names up there as leads, but they would list her as a supporting. And somebody brought that to her attention on Twitter, and they went off. And it's funny because I was looking at her tweets, and one of the people from the Comic-Con initially was like, let's not reach out to her. This is so unprofessional. I can't believe she did this. Totally missing the point. And acting like she was like, they weren't reaching out to me anyway, but somebody sent me this screenshot of their email, like this email thread they had, and they were acting like the reason they weren't going to reach out to me was because I brought up the fact that they didn't reach out to me and invite me to join the reunion in the first place. And ultimately, I guess all got settled, and she did get invited, and they all it's like a reunion where they didn't do a panel, but they did autograph signings. And she said they all made a lot of money off it more than they normally get for autograph signings. That a lot of fans came in that were white fans came into her line to get her autograph. Said they specifically support her and all that because again, it was like 2019, and for you to ignore one of the main characters just because they're listed as supporting, or you don't want, or you just don't consider them a star is just, it's ridiculous. So
because she's such a big part of that film. It's just blatant. Like she's a huge part. Like she's not Gabrielle Union. She is a lead in that film.
Yeah, she is. Cut her character, all of her character scenes out, and your movie will probably be 30 minutes shorter.
Yeah.
And it won't even be the same movie because you need 4 girls to make their circle. You'd have 3 girls in a circle and it wouldn't even be the same movie. So, and they said all the streaming service. So Comic-Con, they corrected it and pulled their heads out of their asses, and actually got her in for the full reunion. The streaming services, apparently Showtime corrected it, put her name as a lead actress. HBO corrected it. They have her listed as a lead. But Amazon Prime, I went to check Amazon Prime yesterday, and she was still listed as supporting actress. And they said Amazon's also the only one that hasn't responded to her reps either to get that corrected. So I guess they just don't care. I don't know.
You know what? And one of the things that is repeatedly pointed out about racism is the fact that like people hold on to racism so much that they'll cut off their own nose to keep it. Because one time when they incorporated her, because she's such a great part of the film, people showed up, white, black, whatever, even more in force because they wanted to see her. Like to see all 4 of them together is what makes it awesome. So y'all want to hold on to racism or be ignorant so much so that you will even lose own money out of your own pocket just to preserve it. That's crazy.
Yep. Because that's because again, your head is so far up your own ass that you are dead set on keeping it this way because that's the way it's always been, or that's the way you think it should be. It's crazy.
I absolutely love this movie. She's such a great part of it. If you haven't seen The Craft, go and watch it. It's like, I mean, I don't believe in witches. I mean, no, I believe in witches, but I don't support witches. They evil. Sorry. I'm so sorry if anyone's offended by that. I just really love Jesus. And so for me, that's how I see it. You know what I'm saying? I don't, but I messed with The Craft. I love that movie. I love that movie.
She just doesn't do light as a feather, stiff as a board.
Not anymore. Heck no. I don't want none of the light as a feather, stiff as a board come about me. And here I am praying and have to get an exorcism. They said, what'd you do? I was watching The Craft. The what, honey? I was watching The Craft. It was made in 1996. Stars Nev Campbell, Rachel True. What?
Go get your butt to church.
I'm not. But anyway, it's a great film. I think the way that they handle a token, you know, and they only had one, and they didn't. And she was a lead and they didn't underuse her. Like, I really think about like in comparison to like the Gabrielle Union, like this is like the opposite of that,
mm-hmm.
You know?
They gave her character a fully fleshed out story while acknowledging her race.
And then, and also not like using her race as a box. Like you still see her get to be her fun-loving self, who she is. Like it was just a very accurate it was a very accurate portrayal of what it feels like to be Black and to be dealing with things like racism and things like that, and still being like we can handle 2 things. It's crazy. Like we will balance daily hatred for our skin and for who we are, and also still be joyful, be ourselves. I mean, she did go evil, but before that, when she was joyful, she was herself. You know, she's still herself. Even when she was evil, she's like, I think we're taking this too far. But it's like, you never like, she held the full, like, I think it's a very accurate portrayal of like Blackness and what it means to be the Black woman that she was.
I'd agree.
Any witch recommendations you got? Like what's some, I don't really know any Black, I mean, vampire. Oh, that's a vampire movie. I'm so sorry.
I mean, that's the thing. There are, off the top of my head, I can't think of any. There's funny because HBO has a show called Los Spookies, which is a bunch of, I think it's a Latin, I think Mexican, but it's a Latin show based on think set around this group of friends that basically do witchy, paranormal, spooky stuff, and they dress goth, even though one of them is like rich and spoiled and all this stuff. And they basically host events or parties, or they study paranormal, spooky stuff, and a lot of it has to do with, I think, witchcraft too. But that's again a Latin show. I can't think of any off the top of my head that have any that are Black people with a witchcraft or like dark occult arts type thing to it off the top of my head. Dark Man is not Black. He's a white guy. Candyman, does that work? I don't know. That's
Is
a
that
horror.
witchcraft?
No, it's like Bloody Mary. You go in the mirror and you call his name. So it's like
Well,
more.
don't say it.
And they,
I know this is Zoom, but it's kind of mirror. Don't do it.
which they're
Don't do it.
Bloody Mary. Yeah.
Don't do it.
I can't think of anything else. But so this may be a good opportunity for any writers out there. I might have to work on a Black focused occult movie. Although I will say there's a lot of Black horror that's coming out now, and I think a lot of that is going to cross this line genre, this horror noir now, which is the lead in charge with is Jordan Peele, but Lena Waithe did some stuff for Amazon now, some Black horror. You've got Lovecraft Country on HBO. You've got it's a lane that's been opened now. So I think sooner or later, I think we're going to see something very similar to this.
And we're speaking specifically about all Black. Like think of a craft with like all 4, leads. And you know what's funny? The question of what would the film look like starring Rachel True didn't come to mind, and I didn't think to ask it because I feel like they do such a service to her in this film. A lot of times I feel like when we think of like what would the movie look like starring them, it's out of like feeling like they didn't even explore this character, but they actually explore her very well in this, where like if I don't see, I would like love it because like give the Black girl the lead, but they actually do a very good job of exploring her as a character and as a person. But I can't think of I can only think of things where there's Black witches like sprung in, or it's like voodoo base, that's mainly it. Like in the American Horror Story, you have like Angela Bassett's character is voodoo, and the other Black girl that kind of does it is voodoo. She's a living voodoo doll.
What? I missed that. Which season is that one?
That's in the Coven, American Horror Story Coven.
Okay.
Yeah,
Did not know that. I know they change each season,
yeah.
but
American Horror Story Coven. Angela Bassett. Look at me. I'm all like, I clutch my pearls. Witches are bad, but I will watch the movie. I will watch the movie and cheer for us. I'll do that. I ain't listen. I love Jesus, but I watch the movie.
But I'll be entertained by these.
I'll be entertained, and then have to lay down and pray later.
Yeah, I don't know if I don't know if there's anything like that with PO starring people of color.
No, it could be that could someone need.
I think it's coming.
That would be dope. I think it's in the same vein of like wanting like that Black vampire movie, that we spoke about.
Yeah,
that's Black. That's based around. For me, I would love to see it based around Black women specifically. So okay, great. Yeah. If you don't already follow us, we do have the podcast. Obviously, you can hear it, but like the visuals are also on our Instagram, which is what's our Instagram handle? Oh my gosh, I'm going blank.
It's Token Blacks in Cinema on Instagram.
Yeah, that's it. You follow there. You can find us on YouTube. Find us where podcasts are found, I believe. At least iTunes, I know for sure.
Yeah, YouTube, iTunes. I believe you can check Google Podcasts now. And anywhere. Or you can just go straight to the IG and stream us from there.
Yeah. Rate, review, subscribe. If you have any film suggestions, please hit us up with it. If you have any questions, thoughts, all that good stuff, let us know. But it's been a pleasure. See you all next week. Or the week after. We do odd weeks. We're figuring it out. We'll be back.
See you all next time.
See you all next time. Bye.